Okay, so is my screen visible?
हाँ अभिनव it is.
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm my name is Abhinav and I'm a third year computer science undergrad, and so welcome to this session of Android Study Jams. Okay, let's start then. So first, let's discuss some industry trends in the mobile ecosystem. All of you might have already know the extent to which mobiles are used in the world, but let's just see it again. Like, obviously, the world is going through a digital transformation. Like, almost everything is digital. Like, everything is getting digitalized, and that only increased with the pandemic. Yeah, like it says COVID-19 impact on the mobile industry, like almost everyone has seen. Like each and every service is trying and making its own app or website so that it gets easier for the users as well as the producers. Anyway, the smartphone users in India, they reached like about 760 million by the end of 2021. That was the estimate last year, and that might and the real number might have even crossed the estimate. And India is a mobile first market, so that means each and every service, like they kind of try and look out to make an app for their service rather than a website first. I mean, even website, but mostly they try and make an app for it. So the importance of mobile app development, right? Um, it's a very easy way to reach users first and foremost, and that is something very important for for something to succeed. It is easier to engage with the customers as well. Whenever you want to give some updates or you want to receive something from the customers, it's very easy to do that through an app because it is more portable, right? I mean, even websites you can do that, but app is something much more easier. And to increase your visibility, like for some producer. So Android, let's just look at some stats for only Android in specific, not iOS. So more than 2.5 billion global active devices for Android, and it's only growing. It continues to thrive as an innovative and open mobile platform built for everyone. So 2 plus billion active monthly Google Play users and 116 plus billion downloads over the last 12 months. And developers like keep on creating amazing digital experiences through various apps they develop, and that is only going to help Android thrive more in the coming future. So what is Android? Some of you might have already known, but like Android, everyone has heard about it. It's Android mobiles, like that is what everyone hears. So Android is nothing but an operating system, just like Windows or Linux. I mean, just like Windows or Ubuntu, and it is a Linux-based operating system. So it's written upon Linux. And another important thing is it is open source. Open source, some of you again, what open source means is that all the code for Android, right? It is open source, and that means you can find out, you can just read the entire code written for Android. It's available on the internet, and anyone can read it. Anyone can try and improve it, or you can add some changes to it. So that mean that open source means exactly that. That means your code is visible for the entire internet to see. They can add some updates to it, make some changes to it, and do anything with it. So that is open source, and Android is open source. It is a software stack for mobile operating systems. So currently, right now, Android is under development by a lot of developers because it's open source, obviously, but mostly by Google and the Open Handset Alliance. These are the two main companies which are looking after Android. And if you want, you can contribute as well. Again, because it's open source, just if you're interested, you can try and see the entire code for Android. And if you find something you can change, even if it's something very simple like a spelling error or something, or just adding a comment, you can do that as well. So currently, some of you might have had your PDS course, but some of you might not have the PDS course. But I guess you may know this much, that during programming you use some particular language, some particular high level language, uh, and like some of the examples are C, C++, Java. You might have heard about all of this. So that is a language, that is a programming language which you write programs in, and the compiler or the computer converts that code into some other language which a machine can read. So for developing Android apps, these two languages are most commonly used, Java and Kotlin. Java is obviously more popular, but um, in the Android world, Kotlin is gaining a lot of popularity since the past few years. So as of 2019, Google announced that Android development will be increasingly Kotlin first. What this means is that whatever new libraries they're writing, or whatever new they're updating for Android, it'll be done with more emphasis on Kotlin rather than Java. But that is for later. Like, you'll learn more about languages in the coming few months, in the coming few years. But what you need to understand is that Java and Kotlin, these are the two languages that are used to develop Android apps. And as of 2019, Google also announced that they will be increasingly Kotlin first. Don't get overwhelmed by any of this. Like, it's nothing but me just stating something. Like, you're not. I know that you don't. Most of you probably don't know these two languages, and that is okay. Like, you're going to learn, but just know this: Java and Kotlin. These are the two languages used to develop apps in Android. Okay, so Java, you might have already heard about it, and some of you might have already written some code in it. So I'll not be touching more about that. We'll see what Kotlin is. Kotlin, uh, again, don't get overwhelmed by any of this. I'll just try and explain everything in simple languages. Kotlin is an expressive, statically typed language for development on Android and server. This just means that Kotlin uh, is like a better typed language which is more suited for Android and its specific uses. That's that's what this line means. It's all. Don't don't like see this and get overwhelmed or something. So this was introduced in 2010 by JetBrains, the company. This was also the team that built IntelliJ. IntelliJ is an IDE. Also, what an IDE is, that you've heard probably of Visual Studio Code, or Eclipse, or Dev C++, or BlueJ, like wherever you write your code, right? Other than Notepad or something, like some places you write your code and compile and run it. That is an IDE. That's called integrated development environment, where you write your code and you can run it and see how it works and all of that. And most of the times, IDEs have built-in built-in like error debugging softwares, where when you're writing it, kind of shows if there's an error or something. That is an IDE. So again, Kotlin is also an open source language. That means all the code for Kotlin can be found online, and currently it's been used by over 5.8 million developers. So yeah, in 2020, according to a survey by on Stack Overflow. So Stack Overflow is a website for developers, or like programmers, mostly, where people ask their doubts, and their doubts gets answered. all of that. It's like a community of programmers. So in that website, according to a survey, Kotlin is like the fourth most popular. So it's one of the most loved languages in the world as of 2020, and it's only gone up in 2021. So these are just some stats on why Kotlin is better for Android. So Flipkart, as all of you might have known, they have their app obviously, but their app was initially written in Java because Kotlin was not in the market for Android when Flipkart was first formed. So uh, Flipkart's app was written in Java, but once they converted into Kotlin, they found that 20% less time was spent on build and 30% less code was written in Kotlin. This was told by the Android tech lead at Flipkart during an internal survey. 50% of the developers mentioned that provide smaller estimates to complete a feature. The module was written in Kotlin. This means that nothing. It just means that their developers, right, their tech team, found out that if the app was written in Kotlin, the time required to write code to add some new feature was less. That's what it means. Um, so let's look at some stats for Kotlin and Android in 2021. So 70% of the top 1000 apps on Google Play Store contained Kotlin code, and 60% of professional Android developers use Kotlin. Now, all of these are Google apps, right? Uh, each phone has them, and out of all of these Google apps, 60 apps use Kotlin. So that was it about Kotlin. The purpose of that was just to show how important Kotlin is and why it is a much more preferred language to write Android apps than Java. But yeah, that was it. You're not expected to know Kotlin because obviously you'll learn in the coming few days. But that I was just the purpose of all of that was to just tell how important Kotlin was. That's all. So what are Android study jams, right? Um, Android study jams are basically a community organized study groups for people to do hands-on learning for Android app development. Usually this was done offline, but uh, owing to all of this pandemic and lockdown, we are doing it online. So Android Basics is a series of special sessions focused specifically on learning how to build Android apps without prior Android experience. So you're not expected to know much already about Android. You'll learn as you complete different courses by Google. So these are some of the opportunities you can get from Android study jams. Basics of building Android apps, solve real-world problems, like develop a collection of simple apps, get some guidance to optimize and deploy your apps on Google Play, and you can get an opportunity to certify yourself. So how do you start? So firstly, all you need to do is go to this website. To start, you need to create a developer profile. I'll just show this. Sorry. Firstly, you just need to go to this website. Um, Over here, you can see developers.google.com profile, and you can create your own developer profile here. I'm using a new account, so it's not there right here yet. But once you get this pop up, you can create your Google developer profile. Like just click on start here, and it will guide you on what to do. Why do you need a developer profile? It's because you can collect up to 16 batches as you learn, or as you keep on going through the course, which I'll show you. Though I'll show you what the course is after this presentation. But as you go on through that course, you can get 16 badges. You can showcase your achievements to others, and you can share your achievements as well on social media. So, on a typical Google Android course, right, it's going to be somewhat like this. You'll have a lot of units, and each of those units have pathways. And after each pathway, you have a quiz, a couple of questions based on what you learned on this pathway, and you'll have to answer that. And after you answer that, you'll get a badge, and that badge will be displayed on your developer profile. So it's going to look somewhat like this. So the basic learning objectives for today's session is learn the basics of Kotlin programming language and discover resources on to continue learning Kotlin and Android and understand Android Studio. I don't think any of you have installed Android Studio yet, but I'll just show you how Android Studio works and all of that. So cool. Let's start. Let's just start with Kotlin first. You can go to Chrome and just click Kotlin Playground. Like you can just do this. What this is, it's a place where you can write Kotlin code and run, and you can see the output. You can open that as well, or you can just see here. So what I'll do first is I'll just run it, right? You can just see. So this is the output. This is the output window, and this is the place where I write the code. So let's just see what this code is. So those who have some experience with C or C++ might know what main is. But anyway, let's go through this whole thing, right? What fun means here is function. Fun means function. So what a function is that function is like a block of code, right? A block of code which is used to perform some a block of statements basically, which is used to perform some function. So again, I just repeat it. Function fun means function, and what it does is that it has a block of code, and in that block of code there are some statements, and whenever this function is called, it executes these statements. So here main means like the main function. What this denotes is that the execution of this whole program, right? Execution of the whole code generally starts with the main function. So whatever you write in main gets executed first. And these parentheses, this indicates that this variable, this main, is a function. So parenthesis is important. Parenthesis in the sense these two brackets, left opening and closing. These indicate that this thing is a function. And here you have the curly braces, the opening one and the closing one. This inside this, whatever is written is a part of this function. So whenever this function is called, everything inside this is executed. Now you can see this, like, right, print ln hello world. So what print ln means is that it's going to print whatever's inside this. So that is print ln. First, like before moving on, I just want to ask if you all have any doubts till whatever I've told till now. Like, do you have any doubts? Just ask. It's okay. I mean, uh, anything, even if it's something very simple, just ask. Um,
It can be anything about the course or Anything you want to ask?
See, because like again, like some of you might or not have the PDS course right now, so and like you might not know much about programming. So obviously, I don't expect you to just understand everything right away. I mean, it's good that if you understand everything, but if you don't, just like ask. It's not a problem. Like you're here to learn, right? So if you don't understand anything, just ask. Mm, okay, I'll continue, but like again, if you don't get anything, just ask in the middle. It's okay.
Hello, Abhinav.
Hmm.
Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah,
Hello.
yeah. You're audible.
Okay. Fine, fine.
Yeah.
You can continue. You can continue.
Okay. So that was that right now. If I like, okay, another important thing in C++, C or Java, or most other programming languages, what you need to do is like you need to have a semicolon at the end of the statement.
Abhinav,
Huh?
uh, I think we have a question in the chat.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So,
do you need to install any application? Like yeah, for Android development, right? You need something. You need something called Android Studio. That I don't think many of you have installed already, but I'll show you how to do that at the end of the thing. Like right now, you can install it
and
right now. Huh?
and yeah, we also have a link on the event page. If you open the event page, it also has a link to Android Studio. You can install it, uh, that link.
Yeah, you need that to write code in Android. Okay, so as I was telling, right, in other languages, in most other languages, like you need semicolon at the end of a statement, and that is used to indicate that that a statement has ended. So I mean, if I run it right now, it works fine. In Kotlin, another feature is that you don't need a semicolon. You can add it or you can not add it. It works both ways. So now if I write some other statement here like print and okay, so what this does is you get something like this. Another thing is like I mean it's something trivial but print means it prints something and the cursor stays here. Print ln means it goes to the next line. So let's suppose we just do this. You get hey in the same line as well. See. So print ln means is that after hello world is printed, it goes to the next line. The cursor goes to the next line. So yeah, that was print. Now let's try some variable. Val k is equal to 5. What this means? What this means is that a has uh, the value 5. So here a is a variable. A variable means something which stores a value. So a here is a variable and that stores the value 5 and val is used to indicate that a is a variable. In other languages like in C++ or Java, what we write here what we write is like this, int a is equal to 5. What that means is that a is a variable again which stores the value 5, and here int indicates that a is an integer type of variable. That means it stores only integer value. Or, and if you write something like double b is equal to 0.5, this means that b is a variable which has the value 0.5, and it is of type double. Double means something which is used to store a fractional value, and both of these are the way you write code in C, C++, or Java. That is not how you write in Kotlin. In Kotlin, you don't need to specify the type of variable A is. All you need to do is write val, which means A is a variable. You don't have to specify the type of variable, but you can specify that as well. I'll show that later, but let's just print A. Now, if I do this, you can guess the output, but I mean, see, A has a value 5, and now that we're printing A, it's going to print 5. Again, if you want to write, you can do something like this. What this means is that A is a variable of type int. Now this is optional. See, it's going to work anyway, but this is optional. This specifying the type, you do it in C, C++, and Java, and Kotlin you don't, you're not necessary. It's not necessary. You don't have to do this. It's going to work either way. Now, now that we've seen val, right, there is a limitation to val. Now let's say you stored 5 in A, right? Now let's say you change your mind and you want to store 6. So you do this, A is equal to 6. Another important thing, this is the same in C, C++, Java, or Kotlin. Once you've declared a variable in a sense, you've written val A or int A in C++. This means that A is declared, and you don't have to declare A again. So you don't have to write val again. Now let's run this. See, it shows an error. Val cannot be reassigned. What this means is that once you declare a variable as val, and once you've initialized some value, like you put 5 in the 5 as the value stored in A, once you've done that, you cannot change the value of A. So that's why it shows this error. See, this is useful in some cases where you don't want to change the value of something you've initialized for the first time. You'll understand where it's used later on as you write more and more, but just know that it is useful in cases where you have to initialize the variable only once. So now, how to do this? Like how to get A to change its value? For that, while declaring, you shouldn't declare A as val. You need to do it as var. What this means is that this also means the same. It declares A as a variable, but what it allows is to reassign the value of A. So let's run this, and it's going to print. That means that once A is initialized with 5, because it's var, A can be reinitialized with the value 6. So that was val and var, and that is how you can initialize variables. Now, again, so like, did you understand that? So did you understand that variable declaration and initialization, right? Like, again, if you have any doubts, just ask once. Mm, Okay. Um. Now that is that. Okay. Let's try something. Let's try if else once. B is equal to 7. Or if I do something like this, if B is greater than A, and A is greater. If I run this, then B is greater because let's see, A is declared as var and initialize the value 5. B is initialized the value 7. So this is if is a statement, right? Here, if you write if and inside brackets you write a condition. Here we write in the condition is B greater than A. Greater than is an operator. You should check if the first operand here, these B and A are called operand. If the first operand is greater than the second operand, it is used to check that. If it is greater, it returns true, else it returns false. So now this condition, right? B is greater than A, because 7 is greater than 5, it returns true. And in if it returns true, you print whatever is there inside this block, inside this statement. And inside this statement, you have a statement that print B is greater. So it's going to print that. Now, if in case this was false, it is going to print whatever is there in else. Print A is greater. So let's do this. Like if I change it to 4, it's going to print A is greater. Hmm. So that was if. Hmm. Another thing which I don't. One second. Another thing, like this is not the case with C++ or C, but Kotlin allows us to do this. So let's say I remove this, and if I write like this, trans is equal to this, and I print trans. So what is happening here is that in other languages, this if thing, it doesn't return anything. It just executes whatever is there inside this. In Kotlin, what it allows is that you can return some value from through if. Okay, this is somewhat confusing. Don't need to think about this for now. Mhm. Okay, let's see for loop once. Mm, for if you want to okay, what is a loop means? If you want to execute a particular set of statements repeatedly, like let's say you want to execute a particular set of statements 10 times, like if you want to print 10 numbers, right? What you can do is, if you want to print 1 to 10, what you can do is write print 1, print 2, print 3, print 4, print 5, print 6, print 7, print 8, print 9, and print 10. But instead of like all of these are the same statements, right? Print, and only the value inside is same thing. So what you can do instead of that is, if you do something like this for I in 1 to 10, 1 dot dot 10, and if you do this and ln 5, it's going to print this. What is happening here is that when I write I is a variable. When I write in, this means it's going through like 1 to 10 here. 1 dot dot 10 means it's going through 1 to 10. And in each loop, right, I will be from 1 to 10. So it works like that. First 1, it is 1, it prints 1. When it's 2, it prints 2 and goes on. When it is 10, it prints 10 and then it comes out of the loop. So if you write some statement out of the loop here, like print out of loop, execute this, and after it prints 10, it's going to print out of loop. So you know that once 10 is done, the execution has come out of the loop. So any doubts until now? Like, we'll go to Android Studio after this. So like, do you have any doubts in Kotlin so far? Like, I've just written the very very basic stuff in Kotlin right now, but after this I'll just share you the Google course for Kotlin where you can learn much more about Kotlin. But for now, is like are things at least a little clear? Like, have you understood uh, what I've said till now? If you don't understand, just say, like, because there's nothing wrong if you don't understand. So any doubts, like, you can just ask. Mm, um, Nothing. I guess everything fine or something. Hmm? Okay.
I think we can continue.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that was Kotlin, but again, I'll share you a much detailed course later. So this you probably won't understand, but as you can see, like for a data class, like for some functionality, let's just say in Kotlin you need to write this much, and in Java you need to write this much. So you can see why Kotlin is a little bit more preferred. These are some of the uses. Again, you might not understand something, so this is, I'll just try and explain, like shorter program for the same task. For some task, if you want to write in Java, it is going to take a little more code than what you would require while writing the same task in Kotlin. Easy code. And another thing is Java compatibility. That means the Kotlin code which you write can be compatible with Java code as well. So that means if you have an older app which is written in Java, you can change some stuff to Kotlin and it will still be compatible. Another thing is eliminating null references. Um, Another thing is eliminating null references, and this is a little bit more complex, which you don't require right now. Uh, Another thing is like it is a solution to some of Java's flaws. Kotlin. This also I don't expect you to understand right away, but as you can see, right, like Java, the code you write in Java, it gets stored as a .java file, like how you write a Word document and it gets stored as .doc, or a PowerPoint presentation and gets stored as .ppt. The code you write in Java gets stored as .java. If you want to run that code, first you need to pass that Java code to a Java compiler. Now, what this Java compiler does is it converts that Java code to something called bytecode, and that bytecode is stored as dot class. Now, this bytecode, what is the use of that is? It is like an intermediary code between the code you've written and the code which the machine understands. So, what is helpful is that you can use this code in another system as well, and the very that was like the specific use case of Java which made it very popular. Java was called WORA, like WORA. What it means is that write once, run anywhere, and that was the reason why Java became so popular. And this specific write once, run anywhere functionality was possible because of this intermediary code called bytecode. This bytecode, what it does is that once you've written a Java code on a system and once it's compiled to this bytecode, you can run it in some other system as well. And how you run the bytecode? You pass that to an interpreter. And once you pass that to an interpreter, it gets converted to machine readable language. What Kotlin does is that it's something similar. The Kotlin code you write is stored as .kt, and you pass that to a Kotlin compiler. And what a Kotlin compiler does is it converts this code as well to bytecode, and that is why Kotlin is Java compatible, and it is so much easier because even the Kotlin code converts into bytecode and it follows the same execution path. Uh, by this, what I just want to say is the only difference between Java and Kotlin is the code you write at the start. That's all. So now let's like just explore Android Studio a little bit. When you open Android Studio for the first time, it is going to look somewhat like this. This is okay. I'll just try and open it once again, maybe. Okay. Uh, anyway, okay. When you first open Android Studio, right, it's going to look somewhat like this. I mean, it probably will be in light theme, but since I've opted for dark theme, it the theme is only probably going to change. That's all. But it is going to look somewhat like this. Let's just like run this app. By the time it's running, I'll just try and explain how the structure works. So here you'll have different ways of organizing an app, but so for Android, this is like generally what people use. So Android, and inside this folder called Java, inside this, like my project name right now, I've named it as ASJ demo, right? And you can see here this this file called .com.example.asj demo. You open this file and you get something called main activity. This is the by default the main activity for your Android. What this means is that this is the first screen which appears on your app, and whatever you want on your first screen, like by default, you can add it here and that gets displayed on your app. The app is running. I'll just show you how it's going to look once this is done. But by default, Android Studio makes the main activity as the first screen that appears in your app. Now you can see this res folder, right? Res means resources. All your resources like images and audio files or whatever you want for your app, you can store it here. Now inside res, there's this thing called layout, right? Click on this, and there's something called activity main.xml. What this xml.activity main.xml, this is the layout file for your activity main activity Kotlin file. What layout file means is that This is the place where you design the UI for your app. UI in the sense you go. This is a place where you design how your app is going to look, how your screen is going to look, basically how your screen is going to look. And here activity main.xml is the layout resource file for main activity. That means, since I told by default main activity is a screen which is going to appear, activity main is going to be the what do you say layout file for that main activity, which means this is where you're going to design how your app is going to look. Okay, so the app is ready. I'll just open it. Uh, 1 second, it's loading, but sorry for that. 1 second. Okay, I don't know why that's happening, but let's leave that here for now. See, this is how your app is going to look. Like initially, without any changes by default, this is how it's going to look. This is the activity main.xml file. Here you code in XML language. It is pretty similar to HTML if you know that. So currently, what the app has is constrained layout. Like at the start, right? This is the starting of the layout file, and here you have something called constrained layout. Constrained layout here is the parent view, like it's called the view parent. That means it is something which holds other views inside it. So this constraint layout is like the view parent right now for this whole screen. We've written here, see, you can see layout width, right? This means we have to specify in here what width this constraint layout can hold, and layout height, we need to specify what height this constraint layout can hold. And here we've written match parent. What basically match parent means is that this constraint layout should match the same width as its parent, and since it doesn't have anything about it, here match parent means it's going to occupy this whole screen, width and height. It occupies the whole screen right now, the constraint layout. And there are types of view different types of parent views. Like constraint layout is one, you have linear layout, you have coordinator layout, you have relative layout, different types. What constraint layout means is that whatever views, whatever children views how you're going to include in this, it needs to be constrained. Constrained in the sense it needs to have at least one vertical constraint or at least one horizontal constraint. I'll show you what that is. See, so that was parent view, right? And inside this parent view, like this is the opening tag and this is the closing tag. As you can see by the backslash here, or forward slash, forgot what that was. Okay, so that is the closing tag, that is the opening, this is the opening tag. And inside that you have a children view or like just a view called text view. Text view, as the name suggests, it is used to hold some particular text. Also, this is a place where you can see how your screen is going to look. Right now it has one text view and the text in it is hello world. See, here also there's layout width and layout height, right? Like I said before, layout width and layout height just specifies the width and height this view should hold. And here we've written wrap content. Wrap content. This means the width and height of this text view will only cover whatever content is in the text view. So whatever the height and the width of the text is in it, that is the only part this text view will cover. See, and I was talking about constraints, right? These are what constraints mean. Like you can see those blue zigzag lines. This means is that this text view is constrained to the top, to the bottom, to the left, and to the right. So that is what constrained means. And yeah, so you've seen the app. It shows hello world. I hope you can see this thing. Now if I change the text here to uh, Happy New Year, let's say. And now if I apply changes to this, you're gonna see like once it's changed, you'll see text changes here. See, the text has changed here to Happy New Year. Yeah. So now if you want to like, let's say, increase the font size, what you can do is go to see. This is another use case of Android Studio IDE. Like, if you're typing size, it shows different options of what you might mean, right? Here we need to change the text size. So let's include text size and write 24 SP. So you can see the size has changed right here. So this is how it's going to look in the app. Here SP is a unit to indicate the size, like how we use centimeter, meter, and all. This is another unit, SP, and we generally use SP to indicate text size and all of that. And there's another unit called DP. We use that to indicate the width and height of views and all. And for text size and other sizes similar, use SP. So we run this again, and you'll see that the text size is increased. See here, graded build running, apply changes, and success operation succeeded. So let's open this. Now can see that the text size is increased. Now, if you want to make it bold, style, text style, bold. It's going to be bold. Let's say you want to increase this more to 32, suppose. Now we run this, and see, it's bold, and even the size is increased. Now, if you don't want it to be in the middle and you want it to be in the top, wait, I hope you understand why this is right now in the middle, right? Because it's constrained from all sides. It's kind of like it's being pulled from all sides equally. So right now it's in the middle. Now, if we remove one particular constraint, now if we remove this bottom constraint, and we can do that by clicking this here. Sorry, wait. Oh, I'll just remove it here. You can see here, constraint bottom to bottom of parent. That means you're constraining the bottom of the text view into the bottom of parent. Now I'm removing this constraint. As you can see right now, it's constrained only to the top. So that means it's being pulled only from the top, and that's why it goes up. What you can do is you can you can see this hand kind of symbol which the cursor changes to when I go here. Now if I want to pull this a little bit down, you can see that it's gone down a little bit by 96 dp, and this this comes over here. As you can see, it suggests, as the name suggests, margin top. This means margin from the layout top, from the top layout, whatever's top of it, is 96 dp. Or now if I change it to 120 dp, it goes more down. See, now if I run this, see, it's gone up from the middle, it's gone up, and now since we've added some margin, this it leaves that much size and it's printed down. If you want to, you could include another text view here, but let's try something different. We'll instead of another text view, will include something called button. Button again, as the name suggests, it's just a button. But we'll give it as wrap content. Height also will give it as wrap content and close the tag here. And since it is now see this shows some this is red in color, which means it has some error. What the error is that since it's in constraint layout, all the views inside that should be constrained, and right now this isn't constrained yet. Um, let's say we'll add some constraint to this constraint bottom to bottom of parent. That means it's going to go down because we only added a bottom constraint. We'll add left and right constraints as well. Constraint start to start off. See, start here in this case, start means left. Why we're not using left and why we're using start is because if you rotate your app right, the if you rotate your phone, the app also gets rotated right, and that in that case the left and right changes. We don't want that kind of. I mean, it most probably won't give an error, but sometimes it might give. So we use a more specific, more general way of writing it, like start. Now if I write constraint end of and parent, it goes back in the middle. I hope you understand why, because right now it's like I said, right? It's pulled equally from the start and the end, so it goes in the middle right now. And let's give it some margin bottom. Again 120. See, so you have a margin bottom 120, and let's include some text in the button, like text to change text. Now we'll change the size as well, like a little bit more. Text size to 20 sp. Now I'll run this. See, there's a button here right now. Now we'll go here. Okay. Another important thing, like, see, now you've written here, right? Text view and button. But now if you want to change something of this text view or button programmatically, that means you want to change it through some code you write in main activity. So for that to change those, you need to identify. You need to be able to identify text view or this button, and to identify that, you need something called ID. For each of these, you need to specify some ID, and let's call this text view as text view one. And this is the way you need to write. You write ID. This is not some very complicated thing that you should not be able to understand. But at plus ID is a way you write ID. Here also, let's say ID button. So for this, we're giving the ID as button right now. Let's go back to main activity and 1 second. Text view is equal to find view by ID So I'm explaining what I've written here. Var text view. As we've already seen here, text view right now is a variable. What we're going to store in this variable is this text view. This text view is what we're going to store here in this variable. Now find view by id is a method, is a function, and again, as the name suggests, it is used to find some particular view by specifying the id. And inside this angular brackets, this open close one, we specify the type of the view we're finding. And in this case, since we're finding text view, we specify text view. And R here indicates resource dot id dot text view one. So this text view one is the id we've given here, right? So to specify that id, we use something like this. Now we'll do that for button as well. Where button is equal to find view by id button dot id dot button. So what we have here right now is we have the text view here and we have the button here. This text view and this button we have obtained by id, and they're right now stored in this variable, and we can work on these things such that you can observe some changes in the text view or in like in the views. Let's say what we want right now is you click on this button, you click on change text, and this text gets changed. We want that functionality to happen right now. So what we can do here is write button dot set on click this. So what this means is that on a button, right? This button has a functionality, has a function called set on click listener, and again, as the name suggests, this means we are setting for something to happen when that button is clicked on click. That means on a click we need something to happen. So button dot set on click listener, we want the text to change, right? So what we can do is text view dot text. Text view dot text means the text which is stored inside, which is displayed by the text view. We'll, let's say we'll change it to um what shall we change it to? Okay, we'll change that to um we'll change that to welcome to ASJ. So I'll run this thing. Hmm. So yeah, everything is stored now. Now if I click on change text, what should happen is this should change, right? So I'm going to click on change text right now. Um, 1 second. This is not moving at all. Hmm. This emulator has stuck or something. 1 second. Mm, okay,
Uh, Abhinav, is it still stuck?
yeah, emulator is like stuck completely.
Okay, so I think if if it is stuck, we can ask all of them to watch the already
Hmm.
uh, watch the older sessions which we did in the past on
Okay,
our YouTube page.
okay.
All of them are available on the page.
Hmm.
I'll also add the link in the chat. One second.
I'll show you the course as well, like Google Android Kotlin basic course. If you type this thing, this thing comes Android basics in Kotlin course. This is what you need to take, like for the first thing. As I've said, right, there are different units. For now, you can do this Kotlin basics, explore this, and there are different pathways. Introduction to Kotlin, create a first app, add a button to an app. Right now, you can start with this. I'll share this link. Go through that website. Like, it's a very good one, and it has like a very clear path on how to go forward. So, like, you start off with, I'll say go to this thing and start with this itself, Kotlin basics. Finish all these pathways, then do this next, layouts, then navigation, then connect to the internet, then data persistence, and then manage it. You do that, and like you'll be good to go to the next one then. So yeah, like you have any doubts to ask anyone, like anything, you can ask anything.